It's time now for a look at the latest business news, and for that I'm joined here on set by Catherine Bennett from our business desk. And Catherine, today, of course, that trade war that had been looming for many months between the US and China has finally kicked off.
Yes, the US has imposed a punishing 25% tariff on $34 billion worth of Chinese goods, from dishwashers and machinery to electronics and hard drives. China has set its own tit-for-tat 25% levy. On Thursday, only hours before the tariffs were due to come into effect, US President Donald Trump went one step further and suggested that he could impose tariffs on as much as $500 billion worth of Chinese imports. Beijing, however, is refusing to back down and will strike US industries such as agriculture and car making. Andrew Hilliard gives us the latest.
A first round of tariffs that marks a serious escalation in trade tensions between the world's economic powerhouses. In total, the US has slapped 25% tariffs on $34 billion worth of Chinese imports. The list of goods targeted includes motor vehicles, computer disk drives, and other industrial components. But for US President Donald Trump, it's merely the opening salvo in a trade war that could spiral out of control.
$507 billion in trade deficits last year. The war was lost on trade many years ago. You know, when they were saying, not a free trader, I said, no, the war was lost, but now we're going to win it. And because we have all the cards.
Trump has warned that Washington could ultimately target Beijing with tariffs on $500 billion worth of products, a sum that represents the total value of goods that the US imported from China last year. Beijing has promised a swift response, vowing to roll out tariffs worth billions of dollars on major US exports, such as cars and soybeans.
Essentially, the measures taken by the US are attacking global supply chains and economic values. To put it simply, the US is actually opening fire at the entire world and at itself, too.
China's central bank says the US import tariffs could cut Chinese annual economic growth by 0.2%.
So let's take a look at how the markets are holding up amid all that trade drama. European indexes started up this morning, with the FTSE 100 up by 1/3% and the CAC 40 also up by 0.5%. DAX is also up by 0.5% after comments by the US ambassador to Germany on Thursday. He said that German car makers could end duties on US cars if Trump drew back from previous threats of a 25% duty. The whole car sector rose as a result. All eyes are also on Chinese indices in the midst of this trade row, and markets have sprung back after initial lows. Investors are waiting to see what happens before any further sell-offs. Earlier, France 24's Katrina Yu gave us some insight into a sector at particular risk: technology.
The US and the Chinese technology sectors are very intertwined, but we do have a lot of tech companies that are based here in China. And if they feel pressured to move out of China because of these tariffs, because of some of these actions taken by the Trump administration, that could affect the Chinese economy, could affect the tech sector, which Beijing is quite keen to grow at the moment. And this could come in the form of loss in terms of investment and also job losses here on the ground in China.
And to the UK now, where aerospace industry leaders are warning of dire consequences in the event of a hard Brexit. The sector's leading trade body is pointing to regulatory alignment as the top concern. Currently, UK-made airplane parts are certified by European regulators. But if Britain quits the EU without a deal in place, British parts would essentially be uncertified, and any planes using those parts could be grounded. Prime Minister Theresa May says she's aware of the concerns and that her government's forthcoming white paper policy document will have more details on the plan for an eventual deal. Getting that white paper ready is May's big challenge and the subject of a crunch cabinet meeting today. The Prime Minister is hoping to quell dissent amongst her ministers about what kind of relationship the UK should have with the EU post-Brexit. May is looking to calm the fears of major British brands, like Jaguar Land Rover, who said this week that a bad Brexit deal could force it to close factories in the UK. May will be trying to convince members of her Conservative Party to stay aligned with EU rules on goods. But there could be a backlash from ministers, as that could jeopardise a future trade deal with the US, seen to be one of the benefits of a hard Brexit. The Cabinet could decide to block the proposed customs arrangement with the EU. And that's all we have from the business news.
Catherine Bennett, thank you very much.